I'm on the front end of the website here in Joomla, and I have just created a special page for my volunteers for the museum. And only volunteers that have a login are able to log into the website to see that special page for volunteers. However, over here in the login box that I've been given, I have the option of creating an account. And if I click on the Create an Account link, I'm able to fill out this information, including a name, pick a username and a password and an email address, enter my CAPTCHA code, and I can register for this website right here without even being a volunteer. What I'd really like to do, since there's only a fixed number of volunteers for the museum, I really don't want just anybody registering for this website. I want to control that. In fact, I'd probably like to just make those logins on the back end myself. Or perhaps my volunteers all share the same volunteer login. That way I don't have people who are not really affiliated with the museum creating accounts for this Joomla website. So how could I turn off that Create an Account link? Well, fortunately, that's not too hard. So if I go into the back end of Joomla, and I'm going to go to Users, User Manager, and up here in the upper right-hand corner, there is the option of Options. And if I go into this, this will give me a number of options that are worth going over. So first of all, should we allow user registration? Well, no, I don't want user registration allowed. If I did want user registration, what user group would those new users belong to? Remember, with ACL, we can create custom user groups, and so it might make sense to have them belong to some other user group other than registered. So I can set that here, along with the guest user group, in other words, the people who are able to see any content on the website, which Joomla's configuration calls them public. For the user account activation, there's some great options here. What this means is when somebody fills out the user registration form, what do they need to do to make their account live? Potentially, it's nothing at all. They could just fill out the form and then they have a login. They can just log right into the site without any further verification that they're real people. Self would indicate that once they filled out the registration form, they'll get an email to them at their email address. This is a great way to make sure that people are giving you real email addresses when they register for your website. Because if they don't give you a real address, they won't get the special link that they click on to activate their account. And finally, admin would notify the site administrator, the super user, that someone has registered for the website, and then the super user could approve or not approve those users as those accounts are created. That feature is new in Joomla 1.6 and higher, and it's very useful for a number of people in their websites. You have the option of configuring the notification email to administrators. When people create accounts for the website, should I get an email saying that somebody has created an account or something has happened? You can turn that on or off. What version of CAPTCHA should you use for your website? The default would be the one we've already configured called reCAPTCHA, but of course you could select other options from this list. When people log into the front end of Joomla, should they be able to see bits and pieces of information about their login, including the ability to change their username and password on login? You can turn that on and off as well. You can also turn on the ability to toggle a front-end language. Should people be able to see English or French? And so you can turn that on or off here in the user configuration as well. The second tab has to do with mass mail. Mass mail from the screen would send an email to all users who are registered for your website. This is not email marketing. I can't stress that enough. A lot of people think that they can do email marketing through this interface. The problem with using this kind of interface for email marketing, first of all, it's not particularly attractive. This is going to send a text message to all of the users who are registered for the website. The second and more important problem is when you do email marketing, you'd ideally like your emails to be delivered. And if your Joomla site is generating email to thousands of users, it could very quickly be tagged as a spamming server because places like AOL or Comcast in particular are very bad about recognizing email from sources like that. The best case, all your emails wind up in the spam filter. The worst case, your server gets labeled as a spamming server and your rankings in the search engines decline and all kinds of bad things happen. So I would not use this for email marketing. This is really designed to email, 3 or 4 people who might be important people to get a mass mail from this particular interface. Personally, in 6.5 years of using Joomla, I have never used mass mail, but it's here. So personally, I'd advise you to do exactly what I do. Ignore it. And because we happen to be talking about ACL, I'll just point out that there is a permissions tab here in the options. And you will find this permissions tab in any of the options screens for anything in Joomla. This has to do with who is allowed to access this part of Joomla from the backend in particular, who can create and edit content within that particular interface. So for the user manager, who is allowed to see the user manager, who is allowed to access the user configuration screen, who can create and delete users, who can edit those users, who can allow those users to be active or inactive. And that's settable by each one of these user groups, and I go over this in great detail in Joomla 1.7 Access Control Lists, which is also available here at lynda.com. In general, if you don't know what the screen is, you should not touch it because it'd be very easy for you to break your Joomla site and not know what you did in order to break it. All right, so that's all the bits and pieces back here in the user configuration screen. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save and Close. And now when I go to the front end of the website and I hit Refresh, my link down here on the bottom to access the account is now gone. So only people who have logins already will be able to log into the website. And if I need to create more logins as a super user, I will need to log into the back end of the website to make that happen.